A very interesting thing happened at Novara Media this week, and it all was sparked off by the fact that somebody called Joe Bird, who's Jewish, has just been elected to be the Green candidate in the local area where she's been voted in as a very popular councillor in the Green Party. She's now going to be standing for Parliament. Now, why would you think that would cause such a kerfuffle? Well, it's because she was actually expelled from the Labour Party. Now, what a lot of people are saying is that she was expelled from the Labour Party because of anti-Semitism. Of course, that's not true. She was expelled because she attended a meeting of Labour Against the Witch Hunt, who were fighting, yes, you're right, the witch hunt. Now, if you want to know any more about Joe Bird's story, I suggest you just Google it. It's all there. It's an outrage, but it's no more outrageous than the story of what happened to many others in the same situation.
The war on Labour's left-wing Jews continues, even when they're no longer in the party. This weekend, the Greens announced that Joe Bird would be their parliamentary candidate for Birkenhead. The move caused Labour right-wingers to lose their shit. Why? Because Bird is the one kind of person they hate most of all, a Jewish socialist.
Now, I just love the way that Rivkah is now, so passionate about saying, how dare these so-called Jewish community groups claim to represent the diverse opinion of Jews in this country. Many Jews in this country, left-wing Jews, wouldn't touch the Board of Deputies, who are a right-wing group, and they wouldn't touch them with a barge pole. Neither would they touch the Jewish labour movement, and for very similar reasons, because both of those groups essentially are not just, to the right of Labour, and in terms of the Board of Deputies, very much to the right. They're also staunch Zionists and supporters of Israel.
We have a major problem in the UK. A problem where a tiny group of self-appointed leaders working in undemocratic and opaque organisations like JLM and the Jewish Chronicle and the Board of Deputies claim to represent the hundreds of thousands of Jewish people in this country. These people then claim to have magically divined the will of the Jewish people and whisper it into the ear of politicians, when in reality, these people represent a very narrow set of political beliefs that are in no way universal to British Jews. I mean, the very suggestion that British Jews share a political outlook is, quite frankly, anti-Semitic.
So it seems the penny has kind of dropped. Suddenly, Novara Media are calling this a witch hunt. Now, when some of us called it a witch hunt, when it was at its height, when it actually really mattered that we were defending this project for socialism, we were called cranks, and we were called cranks by some people who are now in Novara Media, of course.
Ash, if racism remains as rife in Labour as Martin Ford says, why are its activists busy attacking former members?
The answer to that is very simple. The Labour Party does not and has never given a shit about racism. The anti-Semitism crisis was not because people cared about racism too much and they wanted to do everything that they could to stamp it out of the party. The anti-Semitism crisis was not even because people cared so much about anti-Semitism that they wanted to stamp it out of the party. Because if you applied the same logic that had been used to expel or to smear the reputations of various left-wing members to other members of the Labour Party, well, you probably wouldn't have a shadow chancellor of the Exchequer because, what's that? That's Rachel Reeves, standing Nancy Astor, a noted fascist and dyed-in-the-wool anti-Semite. But of course, those standards of guilt by association are never applied to the Labour right because fundamentally it's not about having a uniform standard of tackling racism. It was about having a morally legitimate cover for marginalising and drumming out the left from political life. And so that's why you've got JLM, who are about the Labour movement, applying the same rule book now that Joe Bird has been selected as a prospective parliamentary candidate for the Green Party. And I think that one of the things that is really important to say is that it was a really powerful thing. I think the intensity of the moral panic, and a lot of it was a moral panic, and the fact that it was whipped up leveraging racism, it really made me feel on a very personal level very guilty. It made me feel like, oh my God, what have I been a part of? What should we do about it? Because that's a human response. It's a human response to, I think, feel that any accusation of racism deserves to be taken seriously. But there were people who were being accused of being racist who did nothing wrong. Because the way this moral panic worked is that it was, you are what we say you are. So if the entirety of the mainstream media is united in saying, you guys are anti-Semites, that's what you are. You can't possibly defend yourself because that's anti-Semitic. You can't possibly say, well, hang on, these are some cases of anti-Semitism, but that's not representative of the membership as a whole. You can't say that because that's minimizing the scale of the problem. And you also can't point out the very obvious thing, which is that a really serious issue like racism was being weaponized for political and factional gain because, hey, that's also anti-Semitism. So you create a perfect locked box of a moral panic. There's absolutely no way to engage it and to criticize it without becoming suspected within it. And it's really sad to see that it's happening again. It's really awful to see that there are people who are being hounded for the rest of their political lives, it seems, because this was a strategy which worked very well the first time around. And I think that, yeah, one of the things that I personally regret is that I'm able to say this stuff now. I'm able to shape it into thoughts and articulate it. But at the moment when everything was really intense, I felt very paralyzed. That's something which I regret personally.
I suppose the lesson to learn in all of this is it's very easy, isn't it, to kind of defend comrades when it's easy, when you're not going to lose much by it, when you're feeling pretty kind of strong yourself. When it's hard is when we're in a real battle. But it's at that point that it's important you do it. Now, why does it matter then that they're saying sorry now? And, does it matter that they say sorry? Not so much sorry. I mean, who cares if they say sorry? But they admit they were wrong. Well, it matters because until that happens, until it's acknowledged that actually this tool was used to actually destroy the left, there's no way the left can properly go forward. Because as soon as a left-wing candidate is put forward, as we have seen with Joe, doesn't matter which party they're in, they will pull out the witch hunt card. That's what they'll do. They will weaponize it again. So what am I asking for? I suppose what I'm asking for is people like Sarkar should say, I should never have called people cranks, people on the left cranks. That was an unfortunate term to use. I think what I want to hear them say is, we're actually going to spend some time thinking about what happened in that period and perhaps where we got it wrong so that we don't make those mistakes again. Because the importance of solidarity is not just when you feel like it. It's when it's really hard. That's where the fight is. That's when the fight is really important. But I also want to hold out a hand of friendship and solidarity and comradeship to Novara Media and say, we need to build again. We need all to be rebuilding the left, whatever our differences are. And I actually don't think our differences are that much, except on this question. This is the question that is separating the left. So thank you, Novara Media. Thank you, Ash. Thank you, Rivkah. I mean, Aaron, I presume, knew it was going on. And though he, like I said, took his part and was complicit in the witch hunt, I'm sure he now is seeing things differently. It's time to go forward from this, do more, and in the future, do better.